Welcome to another edition of Duck Snow Sports. This time I start my 7-part series of my baseball previews, as well as I'll start breaking down division by division. And of course, we start the series off with, in my opinion, the best division in all of baseball, the American League East. Very interesting division because you have about 5 teams who legitimately could win the East. I think it's competitive from top to bottom. Maybe the most competitive division of sports. But let's get started with last year's champions, the New York Yankees. Going into this year, New York Yankees, for the last couple years, or last couple decades, have really been a force to be reckoned with, as they've been the most dominant team in all of baseball the last 2 decades. But let's face it, going to this year, 2013, they got issues. As you have A-Rod, used to be the best player in baseball, but looks like he's going to be out for the entire year. And that's going to hurt him. I know A-Rod isn't the player he used to be, but when he's been out the last couple of years, the Yankees have struggled. So I think that'll be a problem. And also, your captain, Derek Jeter, is going to miss the start of the season. Who knows how long he's going to be out. And this is just a big problem to me for the New York Yankees. As you look at this roster, it's not getting any younger, and New York Yankees have been pretty good the last couple of years. Been keep the top of the division after not being, I think, what they've been the last couple of years. I don't think they've been a great team the last couple of years, but they always seem to make the playoffs and always up there for the playoffs. But I think things are changing in the East. It's because you look at this roster from top to bottom. You know, they got old player after old player, you know, Ichiro and Jeter and A-Rod. I mean, if this roster was in the year 2005, it would be the best roster in all of baseball. But now, 2013, probably not so much. And look at their pitching staff. Really, besides CC Sabathia, not much there. And we'll see what happens. But I think in 2013, the New York Yankees are in for a long, long year. And moving to, which probably was the most surprising team in the American League last year, the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, last year was a great year, but a problem I think they'll run to this year is they didn't do much in the offseason, and I think that if they're depending on what happened last year to happen this year, I think they're going to have problems because they went from being the loser franchise that could never catch a break, to finally breaking through that door and finally making it back to the playoffs, where they got outclassed by the Yankees. But the Baltimore Orioles, they're going to be a good team this year again. I really think. Will it be as good as last year? I just don't see it. I don't think they'll be as good. But if they expect to win with the same roster last year, I just don't think it's going to happen, because you see it all the time in sports. When a young team finally breaks through and finally gets to the playoffs, the next year there's always a letdown. There is usually a letdown. I think they're in for the same thing this year, as I just think the Baltimore Orioles, the same basic roster as last year, not really adding anyone. And I just think Baltimore Orioles, they'll still be a good team. I think they'll be competitive this year, but I just can't see them winning the East this year with the same roster, as I think teams will figure them out, as they'll have tape on a lot of these guys now, and the Baltimore Orioles are in for a long year, 2013. Our next team is the Tampa Bay Rays. And of course, offseason did an interesting move by trading Shields away to the Royals. And to me, I have an interesting question about Tampa Bay Rays here. Are they rebuilding or just reloading? Because, of course, they go get Kelly Johnson and Escobar, so really freeing up, really tightening up their midfield right there. And I really like Tampa Bay Rays last couple of years. They've really been an exciting team to watch, and taking a few players off the scrap heap from the Toronto Blue Jays. But every time, at least the last couple of years at least, they seem to take a player off the scrap heap. They seem to come back to life in Tampa Bay. You know, Joe Madden is probably the best manager, one of the best managers in baseball. I mean, this guy can get so much out of nothing. I mean, love Joe Madden. Since he's been in Tampa Bay, basically Tampa Bay has been a good team on the rise. And they've been to a World Series, and I really like Tampa. A team like Tampa Bay, you never count out, because Tampa Bay always seems to be there in the end. always fighting the division title year after year, and I really like Tampa Bay this year. But can they get it done with a lesser team as did last year, as they did struggle down the stretch? But I just think Tampa Bay is just one of those teams in sports you just don't count out, and I think this team is a dark horse to not only win the East, but a dark horse to win the World Series. So 2013, I think, is going to be a surprising year for the Tampa Bay Rays. Coming to our next team, the Boston Red Sox. And a couple years ago, Boston Red Sox looked to maybe want to be the best organization in baseball, but they've certainly fallen off. I mean, having a rough offseason. Like Mike Nably looked like they had him in the bag, but he didn't go there. They got the flying Hawaiian Victorino, but and of course their other big offseason acquisition was getting the Blue Jays manager John Farrell to be their new manager. And my big question about John Farrell is, can he manage a team to get to the playoffs? Because his 2 years in Toronto, a 4th place finish and a 5th place finish. So not the best winning percentage, And it's pretty clear last year that he wasn't in it. And I know Boston's dream job, but if Boston was your dream job so much, then why would you leave Boston in the first place? And in my opinion, John Farrell isn't that great of a manager. I mean, he never showed me in Toronto that he could have been a great manager. And I just think with John Farrell there, with a team that's getting older, and there's a lot of holes in this Boston team. They're not the same team they were, 5 years ago. I just think there's a lot of holes right there. And there's been a lot of problems in that clubhouse. I don't see just bringing in an average manager at best is going to turn things around on top of the rough offseason. This isn't the same organization it was. And I just think the Boston Red Sox are in for a tough year, as I really believe the Boston Red Sox will finish 5th in the American League East this year in 2013. And last but certainly not least, the team that made the most noise in the offseason had to be the Toronto Blue Jays, as pulling off 2 big trades. Of course, the first big trade bringing in Josh Johnson, Reyes, Mark Burley, and many, many more. What a trade. But that's not all, as they also bring in the National League Cy Young winner, R.A. Dickey. Just what an offseason for Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, you look at Toronto's, what affected them last year was the fact they had so many injuries to their starting rotation. And then your rotation this year, most likely going to be Dickey 1, probably Brandon Moore, who I really like, number 2, probably Burley, number 3, who's your workhorse, who's going to get you 200 plus innings, and it's just going to be that solid veteran guy in the room. And then you got Josh Johnson, number 4, who, if Josh Johnson's the number 4 pitcher in your rotation, that shows you how deep your rotation is. And, of course, Ricky Romero be number 5, who was, of course, Toronto's starting ace last year. So, just shows you how deep this team is. I mean, this team could always hit. I mean, they got the great players like from Batista to Ramos, to Brent Laurie, to all these great players. I really like Toronto Blues this year. I really think, they're favored to win the World Series, but they have some issues. The only issues I think they got has to be in their bullpen, as that's really been their Achilles heel the last couple of years. And their only issue probably right now is their close position, because who's going to close games? You got Santos, who they traded for last year, and everybody liked the trade, but couldn't stay in the lineup last year, was hurt most of the year last year. And you had Casey Jansen, who came on, played pretty well. So now you got a situation where both guys are kind of injured, but who's going to be the closer? In my opinion, I think the closer on opening day will be Casey Jansen after how he showed last year. I think Santos will go from the closer to the setup guy. And this bullpen gets stronger. Alex Atala's done a great job building this team, especially in this bullpen. It seems to get a little stronger every year. And I really like Toronto Blues this year. I really think from top to bottom, if everything goes right, if they can mesh well, but that's a big question. Will this Blue Jay team mesh well? I think they got a real chance to be the best team in the American League East, and that's why I'm picking for my 2013 American League East champions to be the Toronto Blue Jays, as I really believe they're favored to win the World Series. and I really like the Blue Jays going this year. I don't know if they're going to win the World Series, but the Toronto Blue Jays will win the American League East in 2013. Well, stay tuned for my next preview as I preview the always competitive American League Central. Of course, we got the Tigers, the Indians, the improving Royals, and many, many more. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, I'm Eric Duxbury saying I'm Dux, and I know sports. Kind of.